When evaluating an essay on private car ownership versus environmental impact, we have to start by looking at the specific demands of the prompt. The prompt requires isolating two competing variables: localized individual advantages and broader environmental disadvantages. Notice how the thesis statement maps to these zones. They acknowledge the individual advantages, but explicitly state that long-term environmental consequences carry more weight. However, they attach a specific condition to this claim. The environmental element only outweighs the benefits if left unaddressed. Before making this claim, the introduction sets a socioeconomic baseline. It directly links the rise in private car ownership to a country's overall economic development and rising living standards. Grounding the essay in a verified global trend prevents the argument from reading like an abstract thought experiment. It forces the reader to confront an active, real-world issue. A highly effective introduction avoids simply picking a side. Instead, it constructs a verifiable structural blueprint that dictates exactly how the subsequent argument will be built. Moving into the first body paragraph, the author uses a structural device known as a concession. They temporarily validate the opposing side by cataloging the tangible benefits of a personal vehicle: remarkable freedom, comfortable pacing, and time saved on daily commutes. But the entire paragraph pivots on a single deliberate phrase. The text establishes a clear irony. The machine purchased specifically to provide independence and save time is precisely what causes stressful, time-consuming delays for the driver. Rather than simply denying that cars offer convenience, this paragraph traps those individual benefits inside an inescapable urban paradox. The second body paragraph abandons the scale of individual convenience and shifts focus to macro-environmental drawbacks. The author constructs a strict chain of causality here. They trace the problem from the combustion of fossil fuels to the emission of greenhouse gases, and finally split the consequences into climate change and air pollution. Notice how the argument immediately translates abstract atmospheric damage into an immediate, localized public health crisis. To maintain credibility, an essay cannot leave a causal chain like this in the realm of theory. It requires specific, real-world data points for validation. The author provides their first corroborating evidence by citing the frequently hazardous air quality levels in Beijing. The dense particulate matter visible in the city's atmosphere proves the preceding claim about the direct threat to public health. A second corroborating data point follows immediately, referencing the extreme atmospheric haze currently suffocating New Delhi. Before concluding the paragraph, the author embeds and addresses a common counterargument: the widespread adoption of electric vehicles. They neutralize this point by shifting the focus away from tailpipe emissions and focusing instead on infrastructural lag. By linking fossil fuel combustion to global climates and grounding that theory with visible smog in major cities, the second body paragraph constructs an unbroken, multi-tiered chain of evidence. In the final phase of this section, the argument expands beyond immediate environmental degradation and tackles long-term urban planning. The author details the secondary consequences of transitioning to electric vehicles, noting the massive capital required to overhaul charging infrastructure and build out renewable energy grids. This creates a physical tension between the rapidly growing volume of cars hitting the roads and the slow physical expansion required to accommodate them. The text isolates specific spatial challenges, namely the geometric demand for sprawling parking lots and wider municipal roads. The author presents a final zero-sum trade-off. This mandatory car infrastructure is built at the direct expense of existing green spaces. They tie the loss of that physical space back to a measurable socioeconomic metric, arguing that it degrades overall community well-being. By shifting the debate from atmospheric chemistry down to the asphalt on the streets, the essay makes the environmental disadvantages immediately tangible to the reader. We finally reach the concluding paragraph. A strong conclusion follows a strict architectural rule. It must synthesize the preceding data without introducing any entirely new evidence. The author begins by validating personal mobility one last time, a structural echo that perfectly mirrors the concession made in the first body paragraph. This is followed immediately by a definitive, final reassertion of the thesis. The conclusion acts as the foundation that locks the preceding arguments into place, proving that the environmental and societal costs cannot be underestimated. The text finishes by applying a strict condition to its final judgment: the disadvantages outweigh the benefits unless governments actively intervene. By explicitly advocating for sustainable alternatives like public transport and car-sharing schemes, the author provides a forward-looking resolution to the prompt's initial tension. Writing an elite essay is essentially an exercise in architectural engineering. Every single clause must serve as a load-bearing pillar for the final conclusion. If you are looking to master this level of structural writing, the IELTS Focus specializes in the precise analytical techniques required to maximize your score. Reach out via Zalo at 084-770-5973 to start building your foundation.